Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dorinda Bordlee.
Good morning. Are we still morning? Yes. Thank you all for coming. It is such a beautiful witness that on a Saturday morning, when you all have many things to do, that you are here to remember the unborn child and their mothers and fathers who have been so wounded by abortion. My law partner, Nick, who you will hear from in a moment, and I have the honor of being advocates for the unborn child. And it always seems exciting when we get to do that as lawyers, in the legislatures, in the courtrooms, in the media. But each and every one of you here is an advocate. And in many ways, in a much more direct way, you are the front line. You are talking to the women who are abortion-minded. You are providing those concrete resources. You are the advocates. I like to think that we are a law firm, a law organization that has one client, and that is the unborn child who is God incarnate in his mother's womb. That's our one client. And because our client is an unborn child, Jesus Christ, who at that point cannot yet use his voice, I ask his mother to help guide us, as I know each of you do today, the mother of life. I want to share one personal thing to memorialize and to honor and remember one particular unborn child. Because you see, I was already a lawyer, had done well in law school, was working for an influential law firm, just as my law partner had done. And many people ask me, how did you get the call to just give your legal career exclusively to advocating for life? And it was because of an aborted unborn child. You see, my best friend had shared with me about an abortion that she had had probably 10 years ago. I was in my late 20s at the time. She had told me that when she was 18, she had aborted the unborn child, who was the child of the man she was now married to. She shared with me not only the psychological and emotional pain, but how during that abortion, her womb was punctured. And not knowing that, they had sent her home, and in the middle of the night, she was hemorrhaging and cramped over in pain and nearly died. It was then that Dorinda, the lawyer, who was personally pro-life but believed a woman should have a right to choose, because that's what you believe when you're a woman of the world, right? It was then that I realized that abortion doesn't just take the lives of these beautiful unborn children, but abortion hurts women. And when the face of my friend was there before me, and I realized that the abortion industry was hurting not only my friend, but many other women, it was then that I realized that I had a personal call to use the power of the law to defend the masterpiece that is every human life. And not standing alone, but in that sacred unity as a pro-life, pro-woman advocacy. Because as Our Lady shows us, mother and child is a sacred unity. We cannot pit the child against the woman. They are a sacred unity. And that is the basis of our legislation. That is the basis of our litigation. And so to honor that particular unborn child, that child whose mother shared his or her story, I remember that child. I thank God for that child showing me my vocation. And so I wanted to share with you, and to honor each of you, some words that I wrote for a March for Life that I think apply today. Because each of you here are witnesses to life. And you know, John Paul II, his biography is called Witness to Hope. And you are witnesses to hope, and you are witnesses to life. And so these are the words that I wrote that were in National Review online. Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, John Paul II, the life's work of each of these unlikely champions was essentially to witness to the human rights violations of their times. They did not speak from government halls of power. They did not control personal fortunes. They did not command military forces. Yet the nonviolent witness of each of these ordinary people carried enough influence to inspire people around the world to question, to argue, to rally, to act. Their common method of social change was witness, the irresistible power of speaking the truth in love. Their witness was by word and by deed. Instead of turning a blind eye to injustice and the degradation of the human person in its many forms, they did what they could, and they challenged us to do the same. Rather than inciting violence, they let their love for broken humanity show forth without apology. By shining the light on the darkness in our souls and in our world, they were witnesses to man's inhumanity to man. And becoming a living testimony to the injustices that they personally perceived, they made a profound difference. And that is why the pro-life citizens are winning in this human rights movement against the crimes of abortion, human cloning, destructive human embryo experiments, and euthanasia. We are winning because we have never forgotten that failing to witness is the only way we lose. We are winning because the millions in this movement have continued to steadfastly witness in the courts, in the legislatures, in the media, in schools and universities, in the arena of electoral politics, and in communities of faith. Some witness around the kitchen table or in the car driving with their children. Some witness when they hold the hand of a friend and look her in the eyes and say, "I am here for you and your baby." There are witnesses who dedicate their lives to peaceful and prayerful protest in front of the abortion facilities that exploit the lives of women and destroy their children. And there are witnesses in pregnancy resource centers who counsel and provide practical resources for women in unexpected pregnancies. There are witnesses who advocate in the courtrooms and legislatures, and there are witnesses who organize fellow students to stand for the countercultural position that human life is not a cheap commodity. There are witnesses who respect their vocation to heal by refusing to participate in life-destructive medical practices, and there are witnesses who give psychological and spiritual counsel to those who have fallen prey to the lie of abortion. There are witnesses who teach our young adults that human sexuality is a profoundly meaningful mutual gift of self that expresses the human call to love and be loved, rather than a casual sport that reduces men and women to objects to use and be used. The hundreds and thousands of witnesses who march in the March for Life, and those of you who gather here today, follow in this powerful and effective tradition of nonviolent civil protest. As those march and you gather here for the principles of human dignity and equality, you represent the millions of unsung heroes who in countless ways serve as witnesses to the human lives devastated by Roe v. Wade's court-imposed regime of abortion on demand. The witnesses who support the cause with their financial resources are indispensable witnesses to love. Love that is defined by one human being making a sincere gift to another without expecting anything in return. Now, those on the sidelines may not perceive the victories won each day in minds changed, laws made, hearts melted, or lives saved. But those of us who enter and remain in this cultural battle must remember the lesson from history, that it is the witness that wins. Theodore Roosevelt probably said it best in his 1910 speech at the Sorbonne University in Paris. He said this: "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy course, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. So in the tradition of nonviolent civil action, those who witness against the culture of death are succeeding in building a legacy of love for the least amongst us. By refusing to be silent, countless human lives have been and will continue to be saved. So today, we Witnesses for Life recommit to our mission of making abortion and other life-destructive medical practices unthinkable, unnecessary, and illegal. We recommit as an act of witness to the millions of lives who were lost but never forgotten. Thank you to each of you for being the Witnesses for Life.